All right, we are back here with a close friend of mine,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
boy Tommy, um, fresh off of a 32-second destruction
yeah,
of Robert Dunn.
yeah,
So let me make sure I introduce you correctly. So it's Tom Theocharis, aka Tom Theo, aka the Greek Warrior,
yeah.
aka the Sandman, because he's giving people naps out here. So
Yeah,
anyway, man, how's it
yeah.
going, dude? How are you living coming off of that high?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing very spectacular. It was a very successful night. I sold the most tickets on the show. I brought the biggest crowd, the loudest crowd. Everyone was super supportive, so I really appreciate my friends and family for coming. It was a fantastic week, fantastic weekend. With the UFC being there in the fight week and being a part of that, it was a dream come true. So it was great.
Yeah, man. I mean, from my perspective, I had to send you a little encouraging message. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make the difference. My message is gonna make the difference. And so I sent the message, and I'm telling my wife, I was like, he that motherfucker better win. I know
Yeah, and
that.
I like the title. Am I interviewing a future UFC star? I like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
man.
cool.
I mean, that's real life, man. I definitely feel like that. But
Yeah.
so so tell me, and I'll kind of break this down into three parts, kind of before the fight, during the fight, and after the fight. So
Okay.
before the fight, kind of your preparation and mindset. I saw in the post-fight interview that you mentioned, something about pressure. And
Yeah.
you just said that you sold a lot of tickets. You had a lot of people there. You're fighting amongst a lot of people who have a lot of expectations on you. Add in the fact that you got Dana and Matt Serra and Hall of Famer Frankie Edgar, Dean Thomas sitting there cage side. Like,
Yeah.
what was going through your mind going into that?
I was actually very confident going into this fight. I did all the preparation I possibly could. I had a very long training camp. Take into consideration the fact that I was supposed to compete in October. That got canceled. Took 2 weeks off, went right back into training. And not only was it the training aspect of it, it was coming home and doing all the mental preparation work and working with a therapist and isolating myself from kind of the outside world and just being supremely focused and a lot of positive self-talk. I really didn't feel the pressure up until I was kind of backstage in the locker room. But the pressure is good because that's the way I perform the best. If you look at my last two fights, that's where I had the most pressure, and those two wins are the best performances I've ever had in my entire life. So before the fight, yeah, I did feel pressure, but it was a good pressure. It was a great feeling. Like, I was very happy to be feeling that sort of pressure. I was grateful because it means something big is happening. It means something important is happening. And in the past, I've kind of folded under that pressure because I didn't really know how to handle it. But now that I'm experienced and I've worked through it mentally and both physically, it was a great feeling. And so the pressure really does, as the pressure rises, I do compete at my best. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely shows. So you mentioned that you took 2 weeks off during your preparation during your training. Do you think that 2 weeks helped you from being overtrained, or kind of was it due to just trying to stay away from nagging injuries, or like what was the reasoning behind the 2 weeks off?
So basically what happened was I was supposed to compete on October 28th, and then my fight got canceled. But then we were supposed to be fighting on that January 19th card, like we had that planned already. But that 2 week kind of time frame or buffer, so to speak, it was just so the fact that I guess, yeah, I wasn't too overtrained. And then I had like a 9 week training camp going into this fight anyway. So I didn't want to have like an 11-week training camp where I'm dieting and like I'm isolating myself too much, because going into that training camp, it is rough. It does take a bit of adjustments, and I think that 2 week buffer period really was just for my mental health and mental well-being, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
training camp is always very difficult. Like, I didn't really get to celebrate Christmas too much. Like I was at home, and like it's just you're cutting weight. You got that calorie deficit, and it's just like very draining being around certain things that aren't related to fighting. And so yeah, it was just more so for my mental health. I would say so.
Yeah, I figured so. When you're doing your weight cut and you're doing dieting, are you also kind of cutting out some sugars as well? Because I know I've tried this sugar cutout thing, and it did not go well. My attitude was on 100. That was terrible.
Yeah. For my sort of my weight cut and my diet and that sort of stuff, I've got a structure that I use. I count my calories, I count my macronutrients, so the amount of protein I'm consuming, the amount of carbohydrates I'm consuming, and there's just so many variables that go into that effect. So for example, if I have like a day where I'm training 3 times a day, I'm going to be consuming a bit more calories as opposed to a day where I'm only training once a day. And then if I know that I'm training hard the next day again, then I'm going to be obviously consuming nutrients in order to, fuel those workouts correctly. Because you got some guys that just go, oh, like I'm just going to consume 2,000 calories a day. That's it. And that's really not the way to do it. You have to adapt to kind of your circumstances. And, let's just say I do have a day where I burn like 4,000 or 5,000 calories, then it makes 0 sense to really under consume where I'm only consuming 2,000 calories. Then my body is just completely going to shut down, right? You still need that energy. So you want to have that happy medium of, you want to be in a calorie deficit, but you also want to listen to your body and consume the proper nutrients in order to fuel your workouts and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's a complex math problem that a lot of people have not figured out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, that's 100% correct.
Yeah. So going into and this is from my perspective again, I see you in the fight in the cage, and I mean, you almost jumped the gun because you're like, I'm ready to go. Like you start walking towards the middle. I was like, oh,
I've been the rep was nope, settle down. You got to go walk back to the cage.
And that let me know right there, okay, he's ready to go. Like he's not playing any games. Yeah. And I see Robert give a thumbs up, and I was like, no, thumbs down. And so diving into the fight. And for me, in seeing, going back and doing my research and looking at a lot of the fights that I've seen you have, and we talked about this, you come out like like you got somewhere to be. Yeah. And, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's basically what it is.
That's a good way to put it. I got my after party to go to.
For real. It's like I got my after party and it starts in a few minutes, so we gotta wrap this shit up. But what I saw you do was kind of you came out and you threw the big right hand. Like it's almost like you're testing the waters. It's like, okay, let's see how you're gonna take this right hand. 100%. But I think my favorite strike that I saw you throw was your right straight.
Yes, and I was thinking that too.
That was my favorite. That's not the one that kind of finished the whole thing off. It was really your power, but it was the right straight. And I saw that and I was like, okay, so like that right there, like that's definitely something to build on when the fights get more difficult than a 30-second demolishment. But like that one, that the way you threw that, how straight that was and how, quick you got that back, like that's the punch that I like the most.
I appreciate that. No, that means a lot. I knew you were going to say that one because it was my favorite strike as well. It's just right down the middle, right from my chin to his, and then right back to mine. And just to sort of build off what you said, like I walked into the cage at 196 pounds, and I gained like a significant amount of weight after the weigh-ins. And I just like, as soon as I walked in there and I was just looking at that guy standing across from me, I just knew it was over for him, to be honest with you. I threw that one strike right at the beginning of the fight, and I just felt like there's no way he could take my any of my strikes. And so that gave me a lot of confidence to just kind of put him away right away. knew that like, okay, anything I throw, he's just not going to be able to sustain. And that's sort of what happened. And I actually told my jiu-jitsu coach, you know, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks before the fight was, he throws a lazy leg kick. And so I'm going to wait until he throws a kick, and I'm going to step right through it and throw the right hand, and he's going to go down. And to be honest with you, that's exactly what I did. Like, if you watch the video, he lifts his knee up and goes for the kick. And as soon as he does that, I step right through and I throw an overhand right, and then left hook, and then the right to the jaw, and then he went down. Like, that was all planned. It wasn't just like a freak, you know, oh, like it was a lucky shot. It was like, no, like I practiced this. And, you know, there's some people online being like, oh, you know, this guy, it was a big mismatch and this and that. And it just like discredits me. It's like, no, like I went in there and I did what I was supposed to do because I put in all of the time, work, and effort and everything to prepare for it. And I made him look bad. That's the reality of the situation. He is a BJJ black belt. He was 11-9 as a pro. He was 9-2 as an amateur. Had never been knocked out like that before in his entire life. And I went out there and just walked right through him because I came prepared. And that's sort of what happened. Like, yeah, he did look like, you know, a bit of out of shape and that sort of stuff, but I look good. So that's all that matters. So
yeah. I mean, and people are going to say what they say. That's what happens on social media. John Anik is going through that right now. So
yeah,
you know,
I did hear
that's
that.
just what happens. But yeah, I mean, as far as him, one, he had things that he wanted to fight for. You know, the same things that could happen for you as far as Dana and all of them sitting, you know, cage side, could happen for him. His wife was right there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get beat up in front of their wife. So he had motivation to win too. So for anybody that's out there saying that, like, that's kind of out of pocket. Like, that dude wanted to win, and it just didn't happen for him.
No.
I think that's really odd for people to say, but I think that's a lot of people just hating on success. You know,
it really is. Like man, like I took this fight very seriously, and it showed with my physique and the way I fought in there. Like, it's just, everyone saw how of amazing shape I was in. Everyone saw how mentally focused I was, and that's why I got that result. It wasn't just because I was sitting on the couch and, you know, hoping, praying I was gonna, you know, knock him out. It was because I put in the work, and that's exactly what happened. So
yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that you were like 196 when you walked in. That's huge. That's crazy. But this is kind of why I asked the question, you know, before the fight about, you know, welterweight or middleweight. You know, if you're able to consistently get to this weight, like, the advantage that you have from just a physical standpoint, like you're not losing any speed, being at that weight, and you still have the size and the reach. Like, it's a problem if you can continue to make that weight.
I think that, like, the only other, I would say, you know, myself, Sadibu Sai, he's a massive welterweight. Neil Magny's a pretty big welterweight as well, but like, I've definitely up there for honestly one of the biggest welterweights on the entire planet. Like, I was 196 walking into that cage, and I'm 6'2", and like, you know, I think that just plays a massive role in this weight class. And like, it's not like I was dying cutting weight either. I've got my nutrition so dialed, and I'm so disciplined, and everything just kind of went fantastic during the fight. So it was it all went like supremely well. So
when you, and this is another kind of a fan insight type of question, when you are in the fight itself, how well are you able to hear things that your corner are saying? Obviously in this fight, it's 30 seconds, you didn't really need a ton of instruction, but in other fights, in previous fights, how well are you able to hear what they're saying when they're trying to give you things that they see?
That's a great question. Obviously, at the earlier in your career when you're not as experienced, everything is kind of just like, you're seeing red, like you're much more nervous, like you don't know what's going on, like your adrenaline is pumping, your heart rate is going nuts. But as you get more experience, like right now, that was my 20th fight, you kind of slow things down and like, not to kind of blow a gasket in the back and like scream and, get your heart rate all pumped up and this and that. You just kind of focus and you're in flow state type of thing. I was definitely able to hear my corner and, hear what they have to say, because like I said, when you're much more inexperienced, it's just like, it's a very overwhelming experience because you're getting into a fist fight, right? Like it's very frightening. Not to say it's not right now, but you kind of are able to deal with the emotions much more properly. And, you kind of have to slow things down. And I've read books regarding, being more mindful and being in flow state and, trying to achieve high performance and that sort of stuff. And so those books have really helped me. And, like I said, it's not just doing things in the gym, it's doing your homework at home, reading books, listening to podcasts about psychology and that sort of stuff, not even MMA podcasts, like just about achieving high performance. And, also watching video on the UFC and your opponent, that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of kind of mindset and the way that you think going into these things, when the fight was finished and, dude is, taking his nap, and the ref comes and pulls you off, and everybody starts, shouting, Tommy, like what goes through your head? Like, what are you thinking in those moments? Like, is it just like, I beat the game, like, what do you feel?
It's like a sigh of relief and just kind of just a very, very happy, euphoric moment, just because, I obviously did something incredible and did something that I had envisioned and worked so hard for, and it finally came to fruition. And it's just an incredible feeling, getting to perform in front of all my friends and family and delivering and putting on a show for everyone. And it's a very exciting feeling, and it's, definitely a high that you always want to be chasing as a MMA fighter. I don't see myself not chasing after that high for a very long time. It's the best feeling on the entire planet. And I can't wait to do it all over again, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So feeling that high and knowing everything that you've put into it, to get to that point, like reflecting on times when it didn't go that way.
Yeah.
When you've lost, like how did you feel in those moments? Was it the total opposite? Was it like the whole world is falling apart? Like, is it like that?
Yeah. Losing is the worst thing, man. It's, it feels like your whole world is falling apart, like you just said. And I just get so depressed afterwards, and that's a huge motivation for me. Like my brother, he'll see me after a fight if I lost, and he's like he's like sad for me, and he's like super worried about me just because I'll be in bed for like 2 weeks. I just like, life sucks, this and that. And it's a huge motivation factor during a fight camp is, I don't want to feel that feeling. It's almost like I don't want to feel that feeling more than I want to feel the feeling of winning, because the feeling of losing is just the worst feeling of all time. It's just not fun. It's very depressing. You feel like your whole world is falling apart. You feel like your dreams are dead. Like it sucks because, I've had this goal and this dream of fighting in the UFC, and then every time you lose, you're just like, oh, like, I don't know if I could do it, or like, I just fucked up my career. And, it's not a fun feeling. So, yeah.
So I asked that because to kind of tee up this question, do you feel that because you have already gone through that and use those things as motivation. Do you feel like that almost gives you an edge going in further into your career, as opposed to if you right now were completely undefeated?
Yeah, 100%, because I've learned so much from my losses. And you hear of a lot of fighters, they'll lose and make excuses like, oh, I had a bad weight cut, oh, this happened, oh, like just some bullshit excuses. It's like, no, like I've been always the guy to take accountability of, okay, why did I lose? Oh, maybe I didn't train grappling enough. Oh, maybe I didn't do this enough. Oh, maybe I didn't do that enough. It's all a learning experience. You're collecting data. As my sports therapist would say, we're always collecting data. Like if I lose, why did I lose? Okay, well, maybe you should have done this differently. Maybe you didn't mentally prepare enough. Maybe you didn't work on escaping the armbar enough. There's always a reason, and you have to take accountability. And it makes you a better fighter in that sort of sense, as opposed to being undefeated and you don't have as many lessons learned. Obviously with an undefeated record, like being at 10-0 or something, you're going to have that confidence. But a lot of it could be false self-confidence, because, you just think you're on top of the world and unstoppable, but everybody's beatable on any given day. And I know that. So I would say all my losses I've taken accountability for. I went back to the drawing board, and it's made me a better fighter, and it's gotten me to this point. So
So reflecting on the win as a whole and the actual performance itself, what would you say that you are most proud of, and what do you feel like is an area for or an opportunity for improvement for you?
I'm definitely proud of sort of overcoming a lot of the things that I've overcame in life, like, the death of my girlfriend, and getting to the point where like I've gotten past so many different things in life, and like, I've taken losses like we just talked about, but I've kept moving forward. And I've taken losses, and people and friends and family have been like, oh, well, like, when are you going to stop fighting, this and that? It's like, no, I'm not stopping fighting just because I took an L. Like, fuck that. This is my dream. We're going to go back to the drawing board, and I'm going to get there. And if I fucking listen to any of those people, guess what? We wouldn't be here talking. And guess what? I wouldn't have fought in front of Dana White and had a spectacular knockout that everyone's talking about. So it's me versus me this whole time. And that's what I'm most proud of, because, I defeated myself in so many moments. And right now it's like I've with my sports therapist, I've been able to kind of overcome a lot of my self-doubt and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just proud of myself for where I've gotten to mentally. So
so on the sports therapist, real quick, when did you get a sports therapist, and kind of what motivated you to get a sports therapist?
I got one after my last loss in December of 2022. For that fight, I wasn't there mentally. I was much better than my opponent, and I lost because I just got in my own head type of thing. And that's sort of the accountability perspective where I've kind of been referring to, was like, hey, like, what actually happened? Okay, well, I was obviously going through some things with, my girlfriend passing away and like, this and that, but I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm, what actually happened? Well, I didn't perform to my full potential. Why is that? Because I wasn't there mentally. Why weren't you there mentally? Well, maybe your training camp, you didn't train as hard as you should have, this and that. So you just kind of, it's just a snowball effect of that. And I had one, and then I switched over to a different one. Both have been spectacular. But I think I've meshed well with my newer one. No offense to the other one. I really loved him. I would recommend him significantly to anyone who needs one. He did really help me. It's just the fact that this other one is, I just sort of met him, and, we kind of meshed, and it's sort of, it just sort of worked out. So
yeah, no, that's really cool. Like I've heard, just people in general, need to sometimes speak to somebody else to kind of drill down into different areas of their life that the questions that they don't ask themselves, because we know how to avoid those questions that we really need to ask ourselves. And speaking to somebody who's open to drilling down into those things definitely helps. So I'm definitely glad to hear that you've gone that direction, and I've never seen bad results from speaking to a sports psychologist. So
no, it's definitely a two-way street, because you could speak to one and then just kind of hang up the phone and not really work on it yourself. But it's one of those things where we'll talk for an hour each week, but then I'm still drilling in every single thing that he's taught me every single day, and obviously it's really helped me. So
so on to a lighter note, what did you eat afterwards? That's what I want to know. What did you eat?
So I have I'm really anal about my nutrition and that sort of stuff. And basically what you have to do is you have to intake a large amount of sodium, as well as the proper electrolytes like magnesium, calcium, all of them, because you're depleting your body of all of those nutrients during the weight cut, as well as carbohydrates. So I think I had roughly 1,000 grams of carbs and 20,000 milligrams of sodium the night after the weigh-in. So I got up to 192 pounds that day. Then the next day I consumed even more food and got up to 196 pounds. So it was holy shit. And I ate so much after the weigh-ins that I had to move around and do a light workout. But when you're so when I got so many nutrients in me, it's just you feel so good afterwards, just because you've depleted yourself for so long. And then afterwards your body's oh my God, it just automatically holds on to so much more of those nutrients just because it's depleted itself. So
it's in starvation mode, and it's holding on to anything it can get. So the other question is, I heard that you went to your after party was at a place called Paris, Texas. And of course I thought that was funny. I've been to the real Paris, Texas, and it's not the place. It's not really a place that you really want to party at. So
it's a good time. We went to Paris, Texas. A buddy owns it. They had a little vinyl of me saying "Congrats, Tommy Theo." So it was a great time. And then the next day we went to the UFC and then went out again. So it was definitely a fun-filled weekend. So
I saw on your IG some of the stuff from the fight. So what did you think of the fights themselves? Just overall, what were your thoughts on that one?
I really enjoyed being at the show. I ran into so many people that I knew. And even random people were asking me for pictures and congratulating me. So that was definitely a really cool feeling. The fights itself, I really was upset for my good friend Malcolm Gordon and Mike Malott. They're just both such good people, and it's unfortunate that they didn't come out with the wins. Siri as well, Siri, I know Siri really well, and it's just too bad that he didn't win fight of the night. I thought his fight was fight of the night for sure.
That was 100% fight of the night.
It was crazy. I thought that was a great fight. I thought he won that fight as well. I thought it was 2-1 for him. It's just crazy that they gave it to the other guy because, obviously Siri's a hometown guy, and I thought he had the edge over his opponent.
I thought it was 2-1 him too.
Yeah, and I just felt so bad for Mike Malott as well. He was winning that fight. He's just such a great guy. He's always helping me out, and I just love the guy. And it's just, he'll be back. I know that. So, and shout out to Jazz as well. She's a fucking savage. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
She did so well. So I'm definitely really proud of all my teammates who competed this weekend. So.
Yeah, Jasmine, man, goodness. I thought that fight was going to be stopped at any point, but the strike discrepancy was so crazy.
Crazy.
That was the very definition of she beat the shit out of her, for real. Seriously.
I saw her today, and we gave each other a big, great hug, and we congratulated each other. It was nice to see her, and we were both fired up talking about our fights together. So it was nice to see her, and I'm really happy for her and her team for that win. So it was very well deserved.
And she's ranked now, which is well deserved. She definitely deserves to be ranked.
Yeah.
And then of course Malcolm, that one sucked. That happened. It felt like he kind of had some issues in camp leading up to it. I don't know if it's just outside forces or whatnot, but I'm sure he'll be back and be stronger than ever. And then Mike, he was. That's what they say. You're winning until you're not, and he was winning that entire fight. But you can't let Neil Magny hang around. And he's a professional, and if you're slipping, he's going to take advantage. And that one sucked. But I do know that Mike he's got a future contender written all over him. So I'm sure that he's going to be back and do great.
It's just all part of his story. It really is. So we've all got our own story, and it's just a chapter in his story that he will overcome, and I know that. And I've got those chapters in my book as well, right? And we've been able to overcome it. So that's just all it is.
Yeah. And then Chris won his fight, and that was a fighting in a phone booth type of fight, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And then Sean.
I love Chris, man. I love Chris. Yeah. He's such a good dude. Chris is a great dude, man. I saw him at the hotel. We were actually talking all fight week. Chris is a great dude. Yeah.
So the main event, what did you think? I know you're biased, but what did you think of the fight as a whole, and how did you think that it actually should have went?
Do you want my honest opinion?
Yes.
I left to go to the bar after Mike Malad's fight, so I didn't even get to see it.
Well, let me tell you, I had it 3-2 Sean. I thought Sean Strickland won. I thought he won rounds 1, 2, and 5. Super close. Drickus did a lot better than I thought.
Yeah.
And he is very, very weird and very odd person to deal with.
Yeah.
What reminds you of him of you is the way that he throws when he's kind of outside of regular distance. So I feel like when you're throwing an overhand, whether it be right or left, depending on whether you're southpaw or orthodox, you're going to be at a certain distance. But he doesn't care where he is when he throws it.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's throwing it to set up something else. A lot of people in the UFC will throw an overhand, and that's all that they're throwing. But he'll throw an overhand with a combination of other things.
Yeah.
That's what made him unique. And I think that kind of gave Sean trouble in the middle rounds, because he switches from orthodox to southpaw, to orthodox to southpaw, just back and forth. So it's hard to really understand what he's doing. But I still think Sean won that fight.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. I keep hearing that people thought Sean won 3-2, which is unfortunate. I love Sean. I was definitely rooting for him, and it's just, I guess that's a fight game, man. Like you just can't really leave it in the judges' hands. But he'll definitely be back, and congratulations to Drickus as well. Like, hats off to him. He won the title, so that's something that I think we should be celebrating as well. Like he won the UFC title, and good for him. So
yeah. I mean, it wasn't a robbery. It was just a close fight. But on you. So after the fight, you do all the things. You do the press conference and all that good stuff. At any point, do you have any conversations with the UFC brass, or is that something that will possibly come down the road?
I don't want to get too much into detail, but we've definitely spoken with the UFC. So I don't really want to go too much into detail on that. But I'm definitely on their radar. So it's something that my dreams are kind of finally starting to to kind of unfold. So it's something that's very exciting in my life, and I'm finally, close to achieving my goal, and I'm looking forward to the future is all I have to say.
Yeah, that's good, man. I'm excited for you. I'm definitely excited for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I mean, like I said, it was going to be quick and easy. It's just two friends chatting. But before we get out of here, is there anything that you wanted to say?
No, I appreciate talking to you, man. It's always a pleasure. And of course, to my friends and family who came for the support, my sponsors, my coaches. There's just so many people to thank. So without you guys, I would not be in this position. So it means a lot that I have all of this support, and I look forward to the future and making everyone proud once again. So.
Absolutely. And for the record, I'm going to come to Canada later on this year.
Yeah.
So I expect you to take me to Paris, Texas.
Yeah. I got the keys to that place, so we can go in whenever you please. So yeah, well, I'll definitely be. I'll definitely hit. You got to be hitting me up, and I'll definitely be taking care of you. So.
For sure. But so cool.